Hi, welcome to Conversation Corner. I'm Jack Hathaway, Norfolk's Town Administrator, and we're in October now, and I want to welcome my usual partner, Jim Lehan.
Thanks, Jack.
Jim is on the Board of Selectmen. I'm sure you all know that, but so Jim and I have a number of things to talk about today, three big ones, I guess. We want to talk about the public safety projects that are going on. We want to talk about the Southwood development and the negotiations we've been continuing to have with the developer. And finally, just a little bit about town meeting, which is scheduled for November 15th, 7 o'clock at the middle school. So we hope you all can join us for that. Be an important day. And so let's, I guess, get right into the public safety projects.
Absolutely. You want to kick it off?
Be happy to. So the first, we have a couple slides for you. So the first one is a rendering of what the building is going to look like. We have as you all probably know, this is a building that we have down at in Shire Development. It's the road, horseshoe-shaped road that goes out behind Eaglebrook, down by the new gas station there. So this is a building that the town purchased about 2 years ago, and we have been working on procuring a project manager and an architect, and in the last 6 months or so actually working on the design, and this is what the plan is for the building to look like on the outside. It may or may not have a little bit more of a gray tint to it on the metal part, but this is kind of the basics of what it's going to look like. So you can see that it's all brick, and it's existing brick that goes up about 8 feet or so down the bottom, and then it's a metal building. Got some windows. You can hopefully you can see it on the screen. There's a antenna there in the front of the building that is protected by a brick wall. That'll be purchased by the state, but that's the antenna that'll be used by the Metacomet Regional Dispatch Center to reach the 4 towns that are being serviced by Metacomet. This is, so I should back up a little bit and just tell you that the first floor now is going to be the police station. The second floor is predominantly going to be the Metacomet Regional Dispatch Center, and Norfolk is paying for, obviously, the build out of the police station, which Jim will talk about in a minute, and upstairs is being paid for by the state through the Metacomet Regional Dispatch Center, and that'll be the dispatch stations and other areas that they need, a lot of computer technology, etc. This is kind of a view from the road. Down the far right, there will be 2 garage doors that'll stay there. If you circle all the way around the other side of the building, there's one more garage door that will be available to the police officers for a sally port. Sally port's where they would drive in if they had a prisoner, pull into a locked, secure area, and then have access to transport the prisoner to jail cells. So I think that's any other, I think one more change I think on the building is we won't have that green light. The police weren't real crazy about that. That was kind of a historical reference that the architect put on, but they weren't crazy about that. But sounds like we might have a blue stripe going around the building, which will add a little bit of a class look to it. Yeah,
and I think there's probably a good chance that the coloring of the building will change. I think our police chief calls it butterscotch at this particular point in time.
Yeah.
And more than likely we'll change that to gray as long as it stays within our budget.
Yeah, we have to do some work on that metal just to beef up the insulation anyway. So when we take it down, there's an opportunity to replace it in some places, and then or just powder coat paint it. Is a possibility, just to get it to that gray color. So yeah, it'll be good. I think it'll be a nice, for being a metal building, it's going to be a nice looking, relatively nice looking building. So if we can go now up to the second floor, So we'll shoot up to the top floor where the Metacomet Regional Dispatch Center is. If you look at that drawing on the far right, about a quarter of the building there, I don't know if you can see that, but it says open to below. So that is just, really, they won't have access to that area from the second floor. That's just going to be the garage area for the police station down below. So starting from 3/4 of the way down the building on the right, we will, you work your way back. You've got the main area is the dispatch center there where you have all those desks. That's where we'll have we'll probably have about 6 dispatch stations in the beginning, but we're trying to build for the future if we add more towns. So we're looking for up to 9 dispatch stations for if we add other area towns to the regional dispatch center. We've got a break area, room for an executive director, somebody who's actually going to manage the dispatch center, and a future office for an administrative assistant, and a small office there for a technology person. Obviously, the dispatch center is highly computerized. It's our most intense computer operations. So certainly the dispatch center will have an IT director, making sure that they're up and running on a daily basis. Farther to the left, those 2 big spaces, the one to the front of the building, which is down at the bottom, is for future development. So that's again room for either the police station or Metacomet to grow. And up at the top there is a training classroom, which the Metacomet will build out, but will actually be available for both the police and Metacomet to use. It's kind of a multi-purpose training room. Could be a meeting room. They could do roll call up there. They could do. We also could run our emergency operations from there. So if we had a major event happening in Norfolk and we had, state police coming in or the Metro LEC come in, we could set up a command post up there. We'll have a lot of technology connections up there, so that whatever needs to be put into place can be connected quickly. I think there's also the possibility that media could get up into that room if we had that type of, if we had that type of an event, that we had media in the area. Fortunately, we haven't had that type of an event here for a long time, but that again is just trying to plan for the future. So now if we go down to the second floor, I should say the first floor, that's where the Norfolk Police Department will be, and I'll turn it over to Jim.
Yeah, the plans that you see there, I'm not going to go through each of them. There's a lot there.
Take an hour.
It will take an hour to get to every room, but for those of you that have had the opportunity to go into the existing police station, I think one of the things that you'd recognize immediately is that it is, 1, far too small, and 2, extremely outdated. Everything from the cells to office facilities and capabilities. The armory is next to the cells. The booking station is next to the cells. There's no safe or secure place to bring prisoners into the building. So this building has been designed to really meet what one would call basic standards for police stations in the state of Massachusetts. And what I want to do is start on the far right. Currently in our current station, we don't have any capacity to keep police cars indoors during foul weather. This is a major change. This is why we have to keep cars running 24/7 during bad storms. You can't go out and clear ice off a windshield and hope the car starts, that the battery's not dead in 30 below temperatures, so we had to keep the cars running. That whole right section will be not only the sally port that Jack described, where we bring prisoners in, but it'll also be a garage where we can house a number of our police vehicles. That actually may seem like something not very significant, but it really is. One, it'll save significant wear and tear on our cars. It makes it much easier and quicker for the officers to access and to get on the road for any emergencies that might be there. So that whole right section is designed to solve that, and the good news is that we have a facility big enough to be able to do that. The rest of the building is really just sort of a redesign of the basic needs of a police station. The cells, we don't currently have the appropriate cells for juvenile, female, and male. We don't even have the appropriate locker rooms in our current facility for female and male officers, and we're having more and more female officers all the time. So this building is designed to correct that. As I think I mentioned, if I didn't, roll call in the current building is literally held in the hallway. We now have creative facilities for that to happen within the building. If you look at the front where that stone wall, or actually brick wall that comes out where the antenna will be housed. That's the main entrance to the police station. There'll be someone there to greet you, so that if you come in that door, there's a human being there to talk to you. We have the necessary interrogation rooms and office rooms available now that are required under state law. And if necessary, we have a little bit of room to grow here. This is one of the advantages of having an existing building. I call it an advantage, some may say a disadvantage, but we had to fit it into what was there. And so it in many respects sort of limited the creativity, and from a pricing perspective, that probably is a good thing, because we were able to get everything in there that we needed, but I'm sure the chief would say not everything he'd really love to have. But we wanted to stay within the budget that the town approved. Let me rephrase that. We will stay within the budget that the town approved. This is really going to be a state-of-the-art facility for us. This will last us a long time. We're excited about it. The other facility is over 50-some-odd years old. This is long overdue. You can't see it on the drawing, but there'll be, the water department owns the land to the right of where you see the garages on this drawing. So we'll be able to create a little bit of an access for the police to be able to enter into that right side without having to purchase any additional land or create any major problems. So that will be not a public entrance, that will be purely for the police, and will be gated so that we don't have a lot of opportunity for folks to get in that way. There'll be plenty of parking in front of the building for both visitors as well as additional police cars if needed. One of the things that we're looking at as an alternate is having some coverage for the cars that are outside, sort of Sallyport type facilities. If we can get that within the budget, we'll do that, because we can't get all the cars in the garage. If we're unable to get that within the budget, then, well, that's just one of the things we won't be able to do. But
carport.
Carport,
yeah.
Sorry, I said Sallyport, sorry. So that's one of the options that we're considering. These drawings now are final. We're getting the final bid specs out, we hope, by the end of October. With a little bit of luck, 30-day bidding process and then an awarding process, and I would guesstimate that we should be starting construction around the first of the year, I hope.
Yeah, well, I think we'll negotiate and award the contract right at the beginning of the year, and then as soon as the general contractor starts after that, you're right, it'll be soon after January 1st.
Yeah. Just a couple of thank yous in this. One of the ways that we've been able to reduce the cost and save some money is through the great help and effort of Bob McGee from the DPW. You don't again see it on this drawing, but there was a lot of site work that needed to be done with this project that's normally within a project like this. Bob McGee has taken it upon himself to do that work for us. It's saved us substantial sums of money, and he's done a great job. So I didn't want that to go unmentioned. That the DPW has really been terrific, kept our costs down, and has provided us a lot of work, materials that normally would go into the bidding process of a project like this. So we're excited about this. It's long overdue, and I again want to thank the voters of Norfolk for supporting this project. Long needed, but I understand economics and the pressures on people and tax bills and all of that, but this is an exciting project that is long overdue, and I know the chiefs would say thank you as well.
Absolutely. This will be a great project.
Just as an aside, I've had some people, I think we've mentioned this before, but just to mention it again, some people have had concern about this police station being way down to sort of the end of town as opposed to in the center of town. It provides no safety concern for you at all. Our officers are on the road 24/7. Rarely are there any, other than shift changes and things of that nature. There really aren't any what you call patrol officers in the building itself. It's really only shift changes where they're there. So that doesn't change any of our patrol schedules or our visibility within the community. And I would be remiss if I didn't say a great thank you to our police department. Norfolk is the second safest town in the state of Massachusetts, and I think in the top 5 or 6 in the country. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens to the good work of our public safety people and to our residents as well. It's a joint effort.
Good partnership.
So it's a great partnership. And in an era, unfortunately, where there's a lot of publicity about relationships between public safety officials and the public, we're very proud of what we have here in Norfolk, not just in our public safety, but in our relationship with the citizens as well. It really is a partnership, and we work very hard to maintain that. We've got a great group of folks.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Couldn't agree more, actually.
So want to move on to the fire station?
Be happy to. So we do have a drawing So this one is a little more of a draft, I guess you would call it, because we will, as Jim said, we are closing in on the final process of the police department as far as design goes. I think the floor plan is set. We will then go to, the architect is now working on all the design documents, which he will get to. I think the plan is to try and get him to get to 90% in the next week or so, and then give us a chance to review, and the project manager a chance to review those, and then assuming we get back feedback to him, or just tell him it's good, then he'll get to 100%, and as Jim said, go out to bid after that. These documents, on the other hand, are just floor plans. They haven't gone through the adding the engineers, the electrical engineers, the HVAC type experts into this. So really, this is just kind of the floor plan, and then that'll get adjusted some potentially as you add in those other not sciences, but as you add in those other crafts into the process. And of course, as we tweak it, we may, for either cost reasons or for functionality reasons, try to make some changes to this as we go too. But so anyway, so this is an early draft that we think is in good shape, though. So as you look at the building on the far left, that's our existing. Those are our existing bays, and the idea is to try. One concept that we're certainly considering is to do as little work over there as possible, and use those bays for the smaller vehicles, because we know the ambulances and the smaller squad trucks, the chief's car, for example,
Brush truck
can get in and out of there. We don't have the problems that we do with the engines. The engines today, fitting in there, we literally have to park one on top of another, and but we don't have to have that problem anymore. So we're trying to save money over there as much as possible. And then on the far right side of the building, you're adding the two new bays, which would have where the ladder truck and the two engines and the tanker would go. And then just inside of that, where the rest of the red area and the green area is, we're adding the functional areas to the fire station that really just don't exist today. Adding the bunk rooms for those officers that are there overnight, adding the EMT areas, the drug storage, the medical areas, the workshops, the decontamination rooms that are needed when they come back from a fire or hazardous waste type operation. Of course, locker rooms, shower areas, laundry area. You think about, sometimes it takes a minute to think about that stuff, but they literally do. They go to a fire or they go to a training event, go to hazmat type stuff. They need to come back to the station and have laundry equipment available to them so they can clean that stuff right away. And then the middle part of the building is the core building, and we're trying not to do any structural changes there. There will be some cosmetic and non-load bearing type changes, but we're putting in a training room and then converting a lot of those offices that are there today, just kind of reusing those offices to improve them. We're going to make some improvements to them and clean them up, certainly, but reuse those offices that are now mostly police department, turn those into fire department offices.
Yeah. As you look at that building, if you took that box on the right and removed it, you've really got the existing structure that you see there today. So that's as you go by the fire station, once it's completed, the only change you'll see is that section to the right. The town purchased land to accommodate this, I think, probably 6-7 years ago,
Yep.
maybe even a little bit longer, as a new station's been planned for many, many, many years. So we don't have to go through that hurdle. That's the good news. And we've upgraded the septic system and things of that nature as well. But a lot of folks don't realize that a lot of the equipment that the fire department has now is actually not in this building because we don't have the room to accommodate it. So this facility now will be able to accommodate it. We kind of kid about those bays on the left, but when they were built, I think 50s or 60s, 1950s or 60s, all the trucks were much smaller. Since we've got newer equipment through the 80s and 90s, we've had how many, Jack? 3, 4 times the doors have been taken out, or the
Yeah, at
bricks
least-
on the
at
side. I mean,
least
we hate to
two,
admit it,
yeah.
but the truth is, you literally have just an inch or two of clearance on both sides to be able to get a truck in there.
Yeah.
I know we've banged some mirrors off and things of that nature because they're just too small.
Yeah.
So the bays on the right, as you can see, are going to be substantially larger, wider doors, bigger doors, so that we can accommodate the ladder truck and the pumper trucks, which are really our big vehicles.
Yeah, and it's just and you know, as you talk about the bay to the left, those existing bays, you know, as I said, you know, one truck is literally parked so that the bumper hangs over the edge of the bumper behind it, of the truck behind it. So, and then in some cases the fire trucks go almost all the way to the front garage and all the way to the back garage,
Yeah,
so it
they
makes
do.
it very difficult to move around, you know, and maybe get to the vehicle that you need to get to. So it's it'll be a huge improvement for them, being able to have a little more flexibility in their space out there.
Yeah, and that section next to the new bays on the right side of the diagram that you're looking at, that newer section which Jack mentioned is accommodating the folks that are staying over on the 24-hour shifts. Currently, we have a trailer in back of the fire police station, which actually serves that purpose. That's where they stay on their 24-hour shifts. They're in a trailer because we don't have the facilities within our existing building to accommodate that. So we're going to fix that, and this new building will fix that. The trailer will no longer be there. But that's also a major consideration for some of the work that we need to do here. While we don't have final drawings, I just wanted to mention that we do have firm pricing on this project. I didn't want you to think that because we don't have the final drawings, we have a budget for both the police and the fire station today, and that budget is firm. And we have a very high level of confidence that we can complete both these projects within that budget. In fact, we've got about $1.2 million of contingency built into the budget because there are always things uncovered when you do a project like this that we just didn't anticipate, especially when you're renovating a building as old as this. There's always going to be something when you get in there. So we have planned for that. We have accommodated that. I mention that because one of our neighboring towns in the process of building one of these facilities recently found that they didn't do that, and they were stuck with seven-figure issues that had to be fixed. We're not going to let that happen here.
No, I think I'm confident we have a very good building team, chaired by Mr. Cronin. Mike Judice's on the team, and then yourself and a lot of employees, myself. We've all kind of been through the process before, so I think we will certainly we'll
Yeah, I think actually
there is a budget. We'll stay.
I think every member of this committee, maybe with the exception of the fire and the police chief, because they haven't had a police or fire building before, has served on a building committee in town before. So we've learned by mistake, I guess is a good way to say it.
Well, my projects didn't have any mistakes.
Depends who you ask.
That is true.
Yeah.
No,
Every project has its challenges.
You learn by experience.
Yeah, you learn by experience.
All right, so I think that's so. Again, the overall, the big picture timeline for the public safety projects is, November, December of next year. That's really when we'd like to be in the building, the new police building, and then probably about 6 months after that. So we're talking about the summer of 2018 of being in we'll stay in the building during construction, but we'll be in the expanded fire station sometime in that area. So it'll be nice. The projects, this plan works out well because the police department will move out of the public safety building on Main Street, and then when they move out, the contractor will be able to come in and work on the police side of the building, build the new bays, while the fire department continues in there, operating where they are.
Yeah.
The fire chief himself might get displaced a little bit here and there, but the department will be able to run out of the trailer in the back and then their existing bays.
Yeah, a lot of our neighboring communities are doing new public safety facilities as well, Millis, Medfield, and so on. And they're not as fortunate. They've had to relocate their departments. I know our original plans, we were going to put the fire and police down in the DPW building.
Yeah, that would have created havoc.
Which would have been havoc, but it was really our only alternative. So sometimes things happen, sometimes good things happen for the right reasons. And while we've tried several times with other plans, this one has turned out to be actually the best of all options, and at a lower cost. So,
Yeah.
and a lot of that has to do with the regional dispatch. So
Yep.
that having come together. So we're excited. Want to move on to a couple of other items? And
Sure, Southwood.
let's talk about Southwood.
So we have the Southwood, you all know the Southwood property, it's about 90 acres down on Route 1A. The old Southwood Hospital, eventually owned by Caritas. And then it is under negotiation now to be purchased by Hoboken Properties out of New Jersey. And they have it under agreement. And so we've been working with them for
2.5 years.
2.5 years, trying to come up with a plan, basically with a development agreement that that is letting us know what they're planning on building in exchange for the town doing a zoning change that would allow them to build that. We've talked about a lot of these things before, but he's agreed to pay $800,000 to the town for kind of the impact to the public safety departments, and then anywhere between $1.5 million to $3 million to help us fund a new well, which will provide water. Along with that comes a lot of negotiations about what he will build, the phasing of that, and the timing of when he was going to build that. The affordable housing component of the project is very critical to the town. So I think we've kind of come to the, recently come to the agreement that we're going to try and get 110 affordable units out of this.
Minimum.
A minimum. And he's going to try to build, and whether or not you think you can get this type of capacity there or not, I likely will be a little bit less, but he's going to try and get 550 units, which would be 220 age-restricted townhouses, 150
apartments,
150
and then
luxury apartments,
and then an assisted living component,
and assisted living,
and a small commercial piece.
Yep. So, if it all comes together, as we've all talked about it, I think we're in good shape. What we have tried to plan over and over and over again is all the different contingencies and things that could go wrong. Us trying to prepare for what developers have in the past. What we've experienced with developers in the past, and so we're working on it.
I think Chris is trying to tell us we're getting a little too long on him.
Oh, all right. So we got about a minute left. Good.
But this has been a long process. The Archdiocese has been anxious to sell this land for some time, and what's made it difficult is the third party. That the developer doesn't own the land, and we've had to work through both parties because we've tried very hard over the last, perhaps more the last 6 months, to try and close as many potential loopholes. There's always that you don't know what you don't know. And we've tried, Jack's been party to this, I've been party to it, along with 5 or 6 other folks have worked very hard to try and think through all of the different scenarios to limit the exposure to the town. There's no question that whether this project goes forward or another project goes forward, we're just, all of our communities in this area, Medfield, Millis, Norfolk, Rentham, there's a huge project now proposed for Plainville. We have just got a bullseye on our forehead for large developments, and we're trying to manage our way through that. And you can't stop it, but you try to do your best to manage it.
Yep.
And Jack mentioned the affordable housing component to this. That's really critical because that's what's, I think, driving our favorable view of this more than anything else, because the state mandates that you have to have 10% of your housing stock be considered affordable and certified by the state to be affordable. And while we've been working at that, bottom line is we're not close. We're not even quite halfway there. And that's the reason that we have exposure to 40B projects that we now have before us, and as does Rentham, as does Plainville, as does Medfield. None of these towns are at the quota. If we can work this the way we hope we can work it, and at least in terms of the contract, and close all the loopholes as best we can, this will really make a huge dent in that objective, and that gives us a lot more ability to prevent further large developments coming to Norfolk. So all of this is trying to manage a large picture to solve what is really a major problem for all of us here in this area. I mean, you've got beautiful residential community, great schools, safe community, all of the reasons why we're an open space. You know, all of the reasons why we came here, why we like living here, all of the values of the community, and we've got developments that are threatening that. But because we have that, we're a target. Rentham, we're not alone. Medfield has got a huge project, two very large projects going up there as we speak. I've heard of hundreds of units proposal in Plainville that is
400, I think, right?
400 or 500, you know, that's on the table, and again, Rentham, the same issue. So this is a project that if we can pull all the pieces together and close the loopholes, and involves the Archdiocese as well, and we've made a lot of progress there. I think this will actually be a good thing for the town, because something's going to happen on that property anyway. The Archdiocese is going to sell it, and it's going to get developed. And this is one where at least we can control it to a certain degree with a restricted age component on the condominiums and revenue back to the town to offset some of the costs that are associated with a project of this nature. And it's also on Route 1A, really the only major road we have that can accommodate this flow of traffic. So while all of us would like to see things remain unchanged, in today's environment, that's just not an option. So we're trying our best to manage through that and retain the qualities of life that we all thoroughly enjoy here in the town of Norfolk. So it's work in progress, but you know, I want to thank the committee members that have participated in this. There have been representation from every board, as well as Jack and the building inspector and our planner, Ray Goff, have all participated in this, and there's been endless hours of conversation, of conference calls, meetings, trying to work through all of this. So all just trying to protect the town.
Yeah, it's been great. And one thing I would just add to that is, you know, you talk about this getting towards our goal of 10%. Some people have been talking about, particularly with the development on Cleveland Street, about the town's ability to ward off 40Bs, and so we're looking at this as as really getting us towards the 10% and really giving us the true long-term protection.
Right.
Some of the protection that is available to the town on a more of a short-term basis is that safe harbor rule, that if we have a certified affordable housing plan in place, which we hope to have probably this spring. I think the Affordable Housing Committee is going to work on that with a consultant.
Yeah, we have a plan in place. We have an affordable housing plan in place that was accepted by the state about 7 years ago. What we didn't know at the time, because we didn't face any 40Bs, so the issue really wasn't in front of us, is that there's a second step involved in that process, which is certification. And so we need to, there will be an article on the warrant to appropriate funds, I believe. Not a lot, but enough to hire a consultant, because this is something, quite frankly, that the amateurs that we are at this really can't write in a way that the state's going to certify it. So we need professional help. We want to get this plan revised into the state and certified, and that gives us a little bit more leverage to delay projects of this nature. Buys us time. Jack refers to it as what they call safe harbor. And we're not trying to prevent affordable housing from coming into town.
We just want to control it and
one
manage
person, when I was talking about this, said, well, you're just trying to stop affordable housing. No, we're not. We're not trying to stop it at all. We want to get to that quota. We want to get to that number, but we want to manage it. We don't want to get stuck in a situation where the 10% is merely something we're looking in the rear window at. and that opportunity is there if it's not managed correctly.
Yeah.
So this is not preventative measures. It's gives us the ability to control the process more, not to prevent it.
Yeah, and I got myself off track a little bit there too. I just wanted to say that we're shooting for the long-term goal of trying to get to the 10%. That safe harbor, but we'd still have to have 1 or 2%. Of movement towards that every year, and we haven't had that in the past, even with the small 40Bs that we've had come in. So, you know, I don't want people to think we're missing out on protection right now, because we're not. Unfortunately, you have to have some 40B development come into town, which, along with the plan, will give you some protection. So, there's nothing that we could have done to prevent,
absolutely nothing. You need to have you need to have a certain number of units in the queue approved in order to even be viewed as a potential candidate for safe harbor, and we've not reached that point.
Right. So we're getting there. So good news or bad news, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
One final thing I think we wanted to just talk about real quick is just again remind people that town meeting is on November 15th. Jim, you had a
town meeting on the 15th of this year is very close to Veterans Day, as I'm sure you all know. And I've had the great privilege of attending the Veteran Day ceremonies at the Freeman Kennedy School for a number of years and having a chance to talk to the kids. And it's always, for me, just a privilege and a special opportunity. And a couple of years ago, the students at that school put on a presentation where they went out and visually recognized all of the monuments to our veterans that have passed away and told a story. The kids told a story about who they were and what they did. A phenomenal presentation. I don't think there was a dry eye in the room. And we've worked with the schools, and because of the timing of this meeting, the board has agreed that have requested that the teacher that put this together, if she would be willing to show this at town meeting. And we're going to have a bunch of kids, and she's thrilled to do it, and we're thrilled to have it. And so it will be probably towards the beginning of the meeting, I would suspect. Pretty sure we'll have at least 15 parents there, because there'll be about 15 children participating, kind of a great way to get them to the meeting. But it really was a very, very moving tribute to the veterans that served our country and that are no longer with us in this community. And I hope people will come. I mean, if you're not enticed to come to town meeting for the reasons that we would hope you would, which is the business of the town, if you have an opportunity, come for this, because it really is pretty special.
Well, that'd be great. I mean, we all know the sad story about Adam Kennedy, but so many of the other veterans, they're
well, there's 17, 18, 19.
Right.
I mean, I've forgotten the exact number, but they're
we
all
see
over
their,
the place.
We see their plaques on the road. It'd
Yep.
be great to hear the stories.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that. So it's just some of the other articles that will be on town meeting, just very quickly. Certainly we'll have all the financial articles that we generally have, as the prior year bills and the transfers. We will have a small set of capital items to talk about after we go through the process with the selectmen. We have the Southwood zoning article to talk about. That will probably be the big item of the night. We have a purchase of the authorization to purchase some land for the water department for a future well. And then we have some zoning articles. Nothing, I don't think, that anybody would consider earth-shattering, but we have some miscellaneous zoning articles, a couple that have been submitted as requests from property owners, and then or interested parties, and then about 5 or 6 that have been put in by the planning board and the town planner.
Those are mostly house cleaning.
Those are really house cleaning, as you said, yes. So there's some. I don't want to sell it short. There's the big Southwood article and the purchase of land, but other than that, there's a lot of housekeeping. So it should not be a real heavy lift of a town meeting.
Just a quick comment on the purchase of land. This is not something we're going to ask you to fund.
Right.
These are funds that we've been putting aside in the water department for a number of years in anticipation of a new well source, which we are pretty excited about right now. We think we've got pretty close to a good opportunity, and we've been looking a long time. So this is a good thing, but we don't own the land. Initially, we looked for sites that we owned land, obviously, so we didn't have to incur the cost. But we anticipated we would incur this cost at some point. So the water department's been putting funds away for some time now for this event. So the funds are there to make this purchase. We're not asking for anything additional. Just want to make that point.
It's true. Good point. Thank you. So that's. I think that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank NCTV for doing the great work that they always do, Mr. Chris back there and Katie.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just one closing comment. I just want to thank all the people that volunteer for the town. NCTV does such a wonderful job of broadcasting all of the committee meetings so that you're informed and so on. But what you see in those 2 or 3 hours that these committees meet and discuss does not represent the work they do. These folks work countless hours that you never see, whether it be on a Southwood project where we've met. At one time we were meeting every other week all through the summer. These are things that you don't see the volunteers that participate on these committees doing, all out of their goodness of serving the community. And I just want to say thank you to all of you. And for those of you that might be interested in participating, this town would shut down without volunteers. So this is a commercial, and I would tell you firsthand that it is very rewarding. You'll get a whole lot more back than you give. It's really rewarding. So thank you to all of you that take your time and talents to do this.
Thank you. And And finally, just congratulate Mr. Getchell, Billy Getchell, who graduated from the Fire Academy earlier this week. Billy attended the 10-week training class. Prior to that, he spent 18 months or so learning how to become a paramedic. So Billy is on board as a full-time paramedic firefighter, and he's a local boy made good, I guess you would say. So it's great to have Billy on board. Both departments have done a great job hiring, and
our staffing's never been better down in the fire department. We've been very fortunate lately.
We've had a few years ago we went from an older staff that was we enjoyed their experience, but both departments have done a good job of transitioning to a younger staff, and we've got a younger, very eager staff, but with also some great skills. So it's
been some good senior people to mentor them.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome aboard, Billy. And so I guess that's it for our October Conversation Corner. Thank you, Mr. Lehan, for joining me again.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway.
And we'll see you next month.
Yes, sir.
Take care.